Hey there, welcome to Craft Central Designs. I have a quick one for you today. I created this pretty coastal tissue box holder with the unfinished wood tissue box from Hobby Lobby. I used 2 napkins, some white cord, and some pretty natural shells to embellish the top. I thought I would take you with me as I create this pretty coastal tissue box holder. Welcome to all to my channel today. Please subscribe if you are not currently, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the tutorial, and leave me your comments. Let me know what you think of this pretty coastal tissue box holder. Okay, let me show you how I created this piece. This is the unfinished wood tissue box holder from the wood department at Hobby Lobby. Every other week, those items are 40% off. And of course, I purchased this on the 40% off week. So I'm showing you here how it comes apart. You just, put a regular tissue box in there. And once you have it all decorated, you have a very pretty embellished tissue box holder. And it's a nice substantial piece. It's very well made. I'm going to be painting it with Snow White Waverly chalk paint. Now, originally, this was the napkin that I really wanted to use. It's my favorite. I just love the chairs and the umbrella by the ocean. So pretty. But it just didn't fit well on that tissue box holder. And I was trying to make it work. But, of course, I could only use half of that. I wasn't going to use the double umbrellas. That just wouldn't look right. So I tried a number of different coastal-themed napkins that I had to use for this piece. I wanted it to be coastal, so I was going for that look. But I finally figured out what I was going to use, and you saw it, but I'll show it to you here in a minute. So I'm going to go about painting this entire box. I don't paint the inside, but I paint everything else. And I put only one coat, but I definitely wanted to have a white coat of paint underneath whatever napkin that I ended up using. So I just, spread on my Mod Podge. Now, I'm going to be using the heat method to put my napkin on. And again, up until this point, I was still going to try and make it work with that napkin, with the chairs and the umbrella. But then I finally gave in and tried something else, and I'm really glad that I did. So I'm going to show you the napkin there. It's there on right there. That's the one that I used. Now, that's a smaller napkin. That's the cocktail size napkin, and I got that at Home Goods. But it's got kind of a shiplap look to it, which I actually liked. And I was able to cover more of that box with that napkin than the other napkin that with the umbrella and the chairs. So it has seahorses on it and sand dollars and all kinds of coastal things. So that worked out just fine. So I'm going to be using that napkin. And I needed 2 of those napkins to cover this tissue box. Now, I didn't cover the bottom. No need for that. But you're going to see here that this napkin covers a majority of the area of this box that I needed for it to cover, with a little bit of area open on the sides, and I was completely fine with that. Okay, so you want to take, if you're new to using a tissue, a napkin, you want to separate the plies, and I make sure that I go right down to the very top ply. A lot of napkins have 3 plies, and I made sure that I was using the very top ply only on this napkin. Now, as I mentioned, this has lines like kind of like a shiplap look. Wow, say that 10 times really fast. Wow. Okay, so you could see there that I ended up pulling off two of those plain white plies of that napkin. So now I'm right down to the very top layer of the napkin. Now, this is a white cord, which I thought went really pretty on the piece. It looks very like kind of like a nautical rope. And so I am going to be using that on this box to kind of trim out the edges of the napkin. And I got that at Walmart. I'm sure you could find something to suffice at Hobby Lobby or Michael's as well. So I'm going to start applying my napkin. Now I have my mini Cricut heat press all warmed up. If you don't have one, that's fine. You can use an iron with no steam. Now this is a very flat surface, obviously. It's like ironing on a box. So you could just use a regular iron. Now, you just want to be careful to go over all of the aspects of the box, all the way to the edges, and really get a nice adhesion of that napkin. Now, this worked so beautifully. Absolutely no bubbles, ripples, nothing. It was just absolutely perfect. I always take my time on this part just to make sure that I am really covering with my iron every aspect of the area where I need that napkin to adhere. Now, obviously, as the Mod Podge is being reactivated when you use the heat, so this enables you to really get a good seal of that napkin. So now I've moved to the top, and I want to be sure that my napkin is really folded over well, that there's no air pockets between the line of the top of the box and the side. So I really made sure I folded it over very, very well. And now I'm going about adhering that napkin to the top. Now, with the two napkins that I used, again, they were like the cocktail size. Now, when you go to choose a napkin, open it up and lay it over the tissue box to see if it's really going to work for you. It's okay if it doesn't cover from side to side all the way. You could see that mine didn't, but that's okay. But just if you could try and cover the majority of it, and also pay attention to how your print of your napkin lies on the box. So there's lots to consider when you're choosing a napkin. If you choose a very busy pattern, that helps with, not having to worry so much about how the napkin is sitting on there. Okay, so now I'm going to go start to do the other side. Now, the one thing I'm going to make sure is that I'm absolutely getting my napkin to the bottom of the tissue box. And I'm going to make sure, like I'm doing right there, that I want that napkin to sit there because I don't want it to fall short down at the bottom. I would rather have an opening on the top, which you see I do have there. But that's fine because I'm covering everything with shells. You'll never see that. But definitely I want to make sure that that napkin is going to cover all the way down to the edge on the sides. So I do have that little space there, no problem at all, and you'll see why here in just a bit. The idea of using the trim, the cord, which actually looks really pretty on here, you'll see here in just a bit, is to be able to camouflage any of the little imperfections and trying to place a napkin on this box. It's a little tricky, but kind of a challenge and fun to do. So I made sure that I had that napkin sitting on there just right so that it will, sit on that box perfectly and go all the way down to the bottom edge there, which is what I definitely want to make sure that happens. And this napkin was actually a really good choice because it has those lines in it, kind of like a shiplap look. And I thought that turned out really pretty. So now I'm doing the sides, obviously, as you can see here. And then after I finish this, I'm just going to go about applying my twine, which kind of looks like a little bit of a nautical rope. And then I'm going to arrange my shells on the top. But this, like I mentioned, I always take my time with this part, making sure that I have everything all smooth on my piece. And this really turned out pretty. Okay, now I'm just going to take my scissors and make little snips, and I am going to go around the opening where my tissues are going to come out. And I am going to use a zip sander. I think I used a nail file too. And I'm going to just clean up all the edge on the inside of that area where my opening is for my tissues. And this was really, really easy to do. I just applied my file the same way I would when I'm cleaning up the edges of anything that I put a napkin on. No matter what that might be, I'm just doing it from this inside, I guess you kind of call it an oval, kind of an oval. Okay, now I'm going to go about taking, actually I'm using a nail file here, and I'm just going to apply the nail file on the downward stroke, and I'm going to clean up the edges and get rid of any of that excess napkin there. Super easy to do. I think I did use a zip sander as well. I wanted to get this part nice and cleaned up. And then I did go around after I had that all done, and I took right there, I took my little sponge applicator and just kind of dabbed it all along the inner edge of that opening. Okay, and I was real happy with the way that napkin went on that piece, and glad that I went with that napkin. Okay, now I have my cord, and I'm going to use Aleene's Tacky Glue to glue the opening, the twine around the opening or the cord around the opening. But I did, for the other application of that cord, I ended up using hot glue, and you'll see me do that here in just a bit. The reason why I did this with tacky glue is I wanted to be sure that I had the ability to adjust it if I needed to. I wanted that cord right on the very edge, and I wanted it to sit just so. And if I used hot glue, I would have had restricted ability to move that cord around if I wanted to. But it was important to me to have that exactly right there on the top, just right around that opening, to have a nice clean look to that. So I went ahead, used my Aleene's Tacky, followed around the opening, and I put that cord on there, and that looked really, really nice. And I tell you, once the cord went on here, it just really took it up a level, really made it look very finished. Now, of course, you could do this tissue box in any theme. You could do it in a floral napkin, any type of napkin that you like. I think this was a great material to cover this box with. So I would recommend that if you want to find some really pretty napkins, go to Home Goods. Oh, they have such pretty napkins. So you may be able to find just the right one to suit maybe your bathroom or maybe your bedroom, to put this on your dresser. Or maybe you want to go with a coastal theme like I did. But you could do this, of course, in any theme, in any color. Of course, the busier the print, the better, because that hides a lot of, if you have any little areas that you need to camouflage, easier to do it if you have a busy print. This one I would consider somewhat busy. Okay, so now I'm making sure that my cord, where I had to cut it, because of course it wants to unravel like crazy. Just, that type of cord, it's nylon, and oh boy, you just look at it and it starts unraveling. So now I'm just making sure that I have that sitting exactly right at the very edge of my opening. I wanted that to look really finished, and I think that it does. Okay, now I am going to go about placing my cord all the way around. Now, this is a really great opportunity to camouflage any imperfections. Say, for example, if your napkin isn't totally straight, this gives you the opportunity to just kind of camouflage that by using your cord. Now, I didn't do anything to the sides of this tissue box. I think it has enough going on that I didn't need to do anything to the ends or the sides. So I'm bringing my cord all the way around all three sides. When I get to the bottom, I just wrap it around just a tiny bit to camouflage the cord that wants to, of course, unravel once I cut it. And this way it'll be really hidden if I bring it just a little bit around the corner at the bottom and I put some hot glue there to keep it from fraying. And I'm going to do that exact same thing on the other side. And now this is really looking like a finished piece. Now, what you do with the top of your tissue box, if you want to leave it plain, of course, that's fine. But I'm going to put an assortment of small shells on mine. I am a coastal girl. Love, love, love coastal. Now, would you know that was that wood box that we purchased, or I purchased at Hobby Lobby? Look how it's transformed already. Oh, I love crafting. There is just so much potential. You can make things look just like you want them. And I love the idea of that. Okay. And what I started to say was maybe if you use like a floral napkin, you could even put some little small florals on the top and make like a little arrangement of pretty florals if you wanted to do that. I'm using shells, obviously. I'm using some small sand dollars, some small little clam type shells. I have some really tiny little starfish, some little bit bigger starfish. And then I use the tiniest shells. They're like super miniature conch shells. I use those to fill in spaces, kind of like when you do a floral arrangement and you're just filling in the little empty spaces. That's what I use my tiny shells for. So I got a good idea of how I wanted them arranged, and I tried to keep my shells from encroaching into the center space where the tissues will pop out. Okay, because I don't want, with the use of, pulling the tissues out of the box, to have those pulling on the shells and potentially pulling them loose. So I was careful. I did let my shells rest on my cord. That's fine, but I wanted to try and keep it as much clear and open for pulling the tissues out. So after I decided like how I wanted to place my shells, then I just went about going around with my Aleene's tacky. I would not use hot glue for this. I don't think it's not really a good type of glue to use with shells. I would go with a tacky glue like Aleene's tacky. And I just went around and lifted up my shells and put a little dab of glue underneath them, kind of like I arranged them on the top, and I glued everything down. Some of my shells are resting upon one another. That's fine. And I just used tacky glue for that entire purpose. Now you can see I put some bigger starfish on there, and they're poking out just a little bit from the outer perimeter. I'm okay with that. I just didn't want them poking into the inner perimeter where the tissues come out. Okay, now I'm going to take my little tiny shells that I mentioned before, and I'm going to go around and place those along with these little miniature tiny little starfish. Now, as far as shells, if you don't have a shell shop that you can go to, maybe you don't live in a coastal area like I do, you could order any type of shell that you like on Amazon. Very easy to find just about anything that you want on Amazon. I wish I could say that on my beach I could just go and find these shells, but I can't. Certain beaches offer certain shells, and mine does not have sand dollars or those type of starfish. Maybe the little tiny baby conch shells, yes, but that would be about it. So I do have access to a wonderful shell shop. So I could pick up my shells there. What I can't find or what I just don't have time to go to the beach for, and that I couldn't find there anyway, I order them on Amazon. It's so easy, or get them at the shell shop. Sometimes you could find shells at your craft store. Okay, so that was it. It was that easy to create this piece. Now, up to you, what theme that you want to create it, but like I said, I am a coastal girl. I absolutely love coastal decor, and this one is mine. Okay, remember, if you are not currently a subscriber, please consider becoming one and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed. And until next time, you all take care.